to go ahead and get started, Coach Skole, if you want to just, kind of give a quick welcome and talk a little bit about what you and your staff and kind of your family have been up to during this pandemic. You're muted, Coach. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Got it.
There you go.
I good?
You're good.
All right. Well, hello, John. It's good to see you. I want to welcome everyone. I appreciate everybody being here today and being on the call. See a lot of familiar names and faces. That's always nice. It's obviously been a little different time, of course, this spring with no baseball. It's taken a lot of adjustments, and we've tried to stay in the process and keep as busy as we can during this time. Obviously, academics for our players and was the utmost importance once they shut down the season, and our guys had another great semester in the classroom. I think we were over a 3.2 team GPA, several guys with 4.0s and Dean's List honors and that type of thing, gold stars. So very proud of our guys in the classroom. Now, we're just in a moment of uncertainty with college baseball and really baseball in general right now. We really don't know what's going to happen. I think it's sometimes dangerous to look too far into the future because you just don't know. You definitely don't want to look into the past, but we just don't know. So getting our guys through school, keeping them in shape has been a challenge, but I think Coach Donnell and his staff have done an unbelievable job with that. Our guys have been working out. Obviously, communication is huge in our program, so we've been communicating with our guys every week, a couple of times a week, and making sure everybody's on the same page. But it's just been one of those things. It's been, the first spring I've ever been involved in over 30-something years where there was no baseball being played. So it's been an adjustment for me. I'm sure I'm driving my family crazy. But the nice thing is I do live on campus, so I have been able to come into the office just about every day. So I can still get some work done.
Well, that's good that you're kind of staying busy there. But, talking about not having baseball, kind of, that kind of changes recruiting and the makeup of your roster moving forward. Kind of what have you and your staff been able to do recruiting-wise and with this pandemic and all the dead periods that have been instilled by the NCAA?
Well, I tell you, recruiting is going to be changed for the next couple of years at least, because with seniors coming back, new kids coming in, everybody getting granted another year of eligibility. I think that's a great thing. I think that's what the NCAA needed to do, but it's also going to create a logjam with rosters throughout college baseball. My staff, Coach Blake Cooper and Coach Zach Lucas have been, we've been ahead of the game recruiting. I couldn't be more proud of the work that they've done and their efforts as far as recruiting. Our class for the incoming freshmen has really been done since last November during the early signing period. So we were ahead of the game there. Fit a guy here to try to complete our roster, but for the most part, we were ahead of the game. It's tough. It's tough. High school seniors that lost their season, even really high school juniors and sophomores that aren't being evaluated right now and couldn't be evaluated because of their high school season was cut short. It's really, really disappointing. But it's crazy. I've gotten more emails on kids, young men that are graduating that just graduated, I guess, in 2020 and will be graduating in 2021 about kids just wanting to play. They need a spot. So it's tough right now in college baseball. It's going to be tough to get on a college roster, that's for sure.
Now, with the senior year for a lot of these high school kids not getting played and them not get fully evaluated, some of them not developed really until their senior year, does that hurt or does that help you in trying to pursue some of these kids either this year or into the future?
Well, I think it hurts in many ways. In baseball, it's very difficult to recruit off film. There's just so many elements that go, in football and basketball, a lot of times you can see a lot more in-depth things on film, but in baseball, it's just so difficult with all the other intangible things that go on throughout a baseball game. So that makes it difficult. Again, our staff, we know, if you're a good baseball player in South Carolina or, pretty much in the Southeast, we're going to know of you. And so our knowledge of kids and knowing kids, no one really slips through the cracks anymore. There's just too much information, too many ways to get information on young men and future recruits. So we've been able to, again, just to stay on top of it. But it's definitely a challenge. I mean, we should be at ball games right now. We should be playing and definitely be recruiting all summer long. So it's going to take an adjustment.
No, a lot of people are going through some tough times during this period, but one team in particular that has suffered tremendously throughout this would be the baseball program up at Furman. And you never hate to see anything like that happen. But if you could talk a little bit about kind of your thoughts when you hear something like that, and kind of bring back some of the memories for you when you were a player here playing against a team like Furman.
Well, obviously, there's never really been any love lost between the Citadel and Furman. What a great rivalry that has always been. I know in football, disappointingly to say my career, they had the upper hand on us during my time here. We finally turned that around in 91 and 92. But in baseball, I think we had the upper hand on them. But great rivalries, great program. I just hate it for Coach Harker, his staff, and especially his players. I got to talk to Brett and his staff a couple of times since then. And it was just one of those things that they didn't see it coming. They didn't know it was coming. And to have to, get on a Zoom call like this and to let your players know that the program's going to be dropped, I don't know if he'll have many more difficult things to do than that, during the rest of his career. So just a tough situation. I hate it for him. Always had we had a huge. I guess it was in 1990, summer of 91. I guess we had a huge brawl with Furman up there at their park. Felt like it lasted 30 minutes, but probably only lasted about 45 seconds. So that was a good memory. Citadel is usually a team you don't really want to get into a brawl with. Our guys can usually handle themselves pretty good. So, but great memories. Had some great rivalries and some great games against them, and I just once again feel so bad for their coaches and their players.
Yeah, and, along those lines, and in the Southern Conference, there was an announcement a couple weeks back in terms of changes for the 2021 season. The regular season, your conference weekends normally played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They've been switched for next year to just 2 days. What is kind of your thoughts on that, and kind of the thoughts of some of the coaches in the league on how that's going to affect play during the 2021 season?
Well, I think that's one of the changes that were made that probably disappointed the coaches more than anything. Anybody that's been around baseball, college baseball, understands that doubleheaders are miserable, make for long days for our staff, administration, the players, umpires, fans. Our kids are getting to the park 3-4 hours before the game, and you start at 1 o'clock and you don't get out of there until sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock that night. So it's a 12 to 14 hour day for those kids. We're going to be asking them to play 3 games in less than 24 hours. If you play a 7 o'clock game on Friday night and then turn around and play a 1 o'clock doubleheader, or a doubleheader on Saturday and a Sunday game at 1, whichever days you decide to use, it just makes it tough. It's not probably the best thing for kids as far as an injury standpoint. Obviously, from a competitive standpoint, a lot more strategy with pitching staffs and how you can use your bullpen, things like that. Really, really tough on your catchers. So it's going to create. Hopefully, it won't create more injury. Worry about that a little bit, but it's going to be difficult with those double headers. I understand, of course, the cost saving behind it. I sort of wish we could have been tasked with maybe other ways of trying to save money rather than trying to scrunch 3 games into 24 hours.
Yeah, and with such a taxing on both your pitching and your hitting, do you see either pitching or offenses having the advantage and playing so much ball in such a short amount of time?
Well, I think the pitchers always have the advantage in this game. It's just sort of how it's made, and it'll really, really because I think we're going to play 3 9-inning games. We're not going to play 7-inning games. I don't think we're going to play a 9 and a 7. We haven't figured that one out yet. So I think it's going to be 3 9-inning games, just like it always is. You're going to need great starting pitching. And if you can get your starter, especially in game 1, to give you 5, 6, 7 innings, throw 100, 115 pitches, and get deep in the game, that will set your bullpen up for the rest of the weekend. But if your starter is out in the first 2 innings, all of a sudden game one, you've got to go in that bullpen. That game and the next two are going to be very, very difficult and very taxing on your pitching staff.
Another thing that came out during these announcements with the Southern Conference is the Southern Conference tournament next year. As it has been in recent years, every team makes the tournament. Everybody goes up to Greenville in recent years and plays that double elimination tournament. Next year, there's only 4 teams that are going to be in that. Kind of, what's your thoughts on that, and how do you see that playing out as anything, especially late in the regular season?
Well, honestly, I don't have too much of a problem with it. I think that's good. You're going to get the 4 best teams in our league competing. Imagine the city of Greenville is a little disappointed because now we would have an 8-team tournament now with Furman not there, but that's 4 teams that aren't buying hotel rooms and aren't buying meals in the city of Greenville. So obviously that's going to affect their economy a little bit. But that's fine. We want to get the best teams in our league represented to get into the NCAA tournament. So I'm fine with that. We plan on being one of those top 4, hopefully the number 1 next year. So I think that's great. But I think obviously we'd rather go back to an 8-team tournament. Just when the tournament was hosted in Charleston many, many years ago, and you have that 8-team event, it really makes it exciting. It really is, a 4-team tournament, you can win it with 3 pitchers. If you have an 8-team tournament, your depth's going to be challenged a little bit. So I think that's gives you a better idea of who has the best team, but it'll be fine. We'll play whatever the conference decides, and next year it's going to be 4. And again, we plan on being one of those 4.
With the scheduling conference changing from 3 days to 2, will that affect your scheduling of your non-conference games in any way, especially the 6-7 weeks leading up into conference play?
Well, I know one weekend's affected is the Furman weekend, and that's going to be for next year in 21. That's our graduation weekend. So we were scheduled actually to go to Greenville next spring. So we're trying to find games to fill in that weekend and figure that out right now. Obviously, it's tough. We don't know. There's a lot of talk now about moving the schedule back, about having a later start date. And again, I think that's all speculation right now. I don't know what's going to happen. I would imagine they may cut some games down from our 56. I really don't know. And right now, northern schools and some of the schools that have really been hit by this pandemic from a financial standpoint, maybe they won't be able to travel as much in the spring. So once the draft settles here in a couple weeks and the NCAA sort of figures out what's going to be a definite, give us the definite parameters, then we're going to probably have a little bit of moving around to do from a scheduling standpoint. But I think right now, for the most part, it'll stay pretty much where it's at, just except the doubleheaders on the weekends.
No, you briefly touched on it right there and mentioned it, the, potential changes to the schedules moving forward. There is that proposal out there that's just getting started with by some of the coaches about moving the start of the season back a month. Instead of starting the 3rd week of February, you will start the 3rd week of March. Instead of the 3rd week of May being your conference tournament, the 3rd week of June would be your conference tournament, and the College World Series would end up being in late in July. Kind of, is your take on that? And do you see that something that has potential down the line, or is this just something that coaches are talking about right now?
Well, I think it's really probably gaining some momentum right now. It was just released. For us, from I guess maybe a selfish standpoint, being a Southern school, it would really affect us. Obviously, starting the season later would push us, us and the River Dogs. That would just it'd be a scheduling nightmare. I think Dave may be on here, but then you got us playing, the River Dogs playing, and you move it back further into the summer. So I'm not a huge fan. I think 2 weeks would be fine. Start the 1st of March. And what we don't realize is baseball's we're in a tough situation. And I talk with Dan McDonald at Louisville and Chris Lamonis at Mississippi State every day. And I talked to him about this. We're at the point right now. I was in Omaha watching their teams play last year. In college baseball, it's at the highest it's ever been. the players are better, the development's better, the coaching's better, the facilities are better, everybody's making more money. I mean, it really is in a good shape, and we keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. We really have to be careful what's going to happen. And this is a drastic proposal that they have out there. From a financial standpoint, I think if you're a Power 5 school, they can pretty much handle anything financially. But when you're a mid-major program, a Southern Conference program, even the College of Charleston's, the Coastal Carolinas, there's no way, I don't think financially we could handle some of these changes. Just keeping our kids 7-8 weeks here after graduation. You have 40 kids here and you're feeding them $35 a day meal money, and then you got to house them. I mean, the expenses, you're looking at $75,000, $80,000 extra dollars that you're paying after graduation just to keep these kids living here. So there's just a lot of things that got to go into this specific proposal. I think 4 or 5 weeks pushing it back is drastic. I think we could handle 2 weeks, maybe cut out some of the midweek games, shorten the season a little bit, and everything would be fine. But I think right now, Eric Bakich, who's a good friend of mine at Michigan, is the one that designed the proposal with 4 or 5 other guys. And, in that proposal, he stated that they spent $225,000 in travel their first 4 weekends of the year. Okay. Our whole travel budget's less than $100,000. I mean, that's just an obscene amount of money that they're spending at that level. And they want to continue to grow the program, but the Northeastern schools, the mid-major Northeastern schools, they're not spending that kind of money their first 4 weekends. They maybe spend $50,000, $60,000, but they're not spending, $250,000 on travel in their first 4 weeks of the season. There's only a few select schools that can really do that. So when they're looking at that model, they're designing that model, they're designing it with the Power 5 schools in mind, and they're not taking consideration the other 200 schools that are going to struggle financially if they do something like this. So there's got to be a lot that goes into it. I know there's a huge push to try to increase scholarships. Everybody gets upset because baseball has only got 11.7 scholarships, and that's tough to distribute amongst 27 players. There's no doubt that's difficult, but they want to give 27 full scholarships. Well, once again, the only teams in America that can give 27 full baseball scholarships are going to be the Power 5 schools. None of us are going to be able to do that. I can't imagine, being in a meeting with Mike and Jeff and saying, hey, listen, I need $1.8 million here, to fund our 27 scholarships on top of what we have. I mean, that's just not going to happen at the mid-major level. So we got to be careful. We're going to eventually, if the Power 5s keep pushing, we'll run into a Division I, 1AA, FBS, FCS type situation in baseball, just like they have in football, because the gap just keeps getting more wider, and we're not going to be able to keep up if they keep pushing.
With that, moving the season back going into the summer, what kind of effect will that have on summer baseball and kind of the development of the younger players who are on teams that do not make the NCAA tournament?
Well, it'll definitely affect the summer teams and the collegiate summer leagues. There's probably now, there's probably close to 25 or 30 collegiate summer leagues throughout the country. Most of these are in smaller towns, smaller area, pockets of the country. And, these organizations, they survive on having these teams in and these college kids come in and play for the summer. Great atmospheres, great environments. And it's a great opportunity for our players to go and play with other great players from other programs, get away from campus, get away from home, live on your own. It's really a great step in their maturation process as they become a young man and develop themselves into a college baseball player. But if you move the season back, you're definitely going to affect those leagues. It would be difficult. If we're playing through the fall and practicing and you're not getting done till the end of June, those kids are going to need time off. So they're trying to say that those leagues will not be harmed, but there's no doubt that these coaches, we're not going to let our pitchers, throw, if they're throwing 100 innings, go throw another 50 more in the next 6 weeks. They're going to need some time off. So I just don't see it happening.
Kind of transitioning from there over to, your current roster and kind of this 2020 season that was, off to a good start. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the mindset of your team going into this year. You were coming off kind of a down year last year. You had, the youngest team in the country last year. You come back this year, you're still one of the, the youngest teams in the country, but you get off to that great start. Kind of what was the mindset of the team as they entered this season and then got off to that good start?
Well, I was very proud of our guys. Trying to get these guys is the biggest challenge I've had is trying to get these kids to believe that they can win and to understand, you got to do a lot of little things to win a baseball game. And most of those things are routine, tight play oriented. But that's been the biggest challenge for us here. And it's just not easy to do, to change that mindset, to change the confidence of the kids. So you can do some of that through recruiting, but it's building a program. Our first 2 years obviously were difficult struggles, but the kids that we inherited, the 2 senior classes that we graduated, just awesome kids that bought in, that gave us everything that they had, really competed. We were undermanned, and in baseball, Division I baseball, you don't really outcoach anybody anymore. When you hand that lineup card over to that umpire before the game, you better have some dudes on the mound and in that lineup that can win games for you. So through recruiting, I think we've got some really talented young kids. We're still going to be young next year because nobody's losing a year of eligibility, but it's just building and continuing to develop the process, getting these kids to understand what it takes to win. And it's in every aspect, everything we do off the field, on the field. It's every day, 24/7 type of process that we're talking about here, but feel really good about it. Our program's loaded right now. We're going to be really, really good next year. We feel like we've got a lot of pitching back. We got some great young players coming. Now we're still going to be young. Right now we probably have 1 senior in the lineup, but we're going to be very young. But these kids are understanding what it means to be a Citadel baseball player. They're developing their passion for our program, passion for the school. And then I think that's the biggest thing, is getting them to understand what it really means to play here.
You talk about, being very young, and after this year, nobody losing a year of eligibility. So you had a crop of about 15 freshmen on your roster this year. They're going to be freshmen again next year. You're going to bring in another crop of, 15 freshmen. So how do you handle a situation where your roster's, 75, 80% of freshmen?
Well, it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. Of course, when you sign kids and you bring them in, they're always great when you sign them. You think, it's going to be a great play, but you never know till you actually get them here and let them compete to see if they can really help you win at this level. That's part of the logjam I was talking about with rosters. Most schools, and we're at the low end right now. I've always been a coach that wanted to have a low number of kids in our program. I think I hate to see kids get lost in the shuffle. And we're at that point now where we got to be careful. I know, talking to Chris and Dan at Louisville, Mississippi State, there were well over 55 kids in their programs going into this draft. They're going to have to cut some kids. They're going to have to make some bad decisions, some tough decisions that just are bad, that are just no coach wants to do. That's the worst thing in the world to coach to have to cut players. So I don't like to do it. I don't want to do it. I think the NCAA is probably going to give us a little leeway and let us go from 35 to 45. I think that's what I've been hearing, to allow us to expand our rosters a little bit. But even then, it's not like you're going to be able to play 10 more players. That's 10 more kids that aren't playing, that are on the bench, that, that's not an easy thing for these kids because they were all really good players in high school. So it makes it difficult with the logjam of young players. And it's not very encouraging for those kids that are juniors or be rising seniors next year. As far as trying to find a place and a home to play baseball, it's going to be very, very limited until those kids that are in the program can get through it. Because it's like I said, it's clogged up all the rosters.
With your young group, you talked about your pitching. Your weekend rotation was off to a strong start. You had some guys step up, in that bullpen and able to close out those games. A lot of these guys in their second year, third year, working with Coach Cooper, what kind of things are they going to take from this year, to make jumps into next year? You have a guy like Cameron Reeves, who as a freshman, he was a bullpen guy, would make some midweek starts for you, struggled, with some command and, gave up some hits in bad spots, but comes back this year, gives up 3 runs in the first inning against Coppin State and then goes 25 in the third without giving up an earned run. He makes that big step. How do these guys take that and improve on that even next year?
Well, Cam that was fun to watch. I tell you what, he was as dominant as you could ever expect someone to be since that first inning. It was really fun to watch, and that's the neat part. We're always going to be a developmental program here. We're not going to recruit kids that are finished product. Obviously, as coaches, we always want a kid that throws 95 and can hit it 500 feet and run fast as lightning, but we're not going to get that. We got to develop kids, and that'll always be the case here at the Citadel. So that's the beauty and the fun I get in coaching, is watching these kids become better players and better people. I think at the Citadel, you get a sort of a boost. You see such a great transition in our young players from their freshman to their sophomore year. When they come back as a sophomore, they're completely different than they were as a freshman. So that's nice because they're obviously more comfortable with the school and having gotten through the fourth class system. That maturity and that toughness and discipline that's been instilled with them, you really see it when they get back as sophomores. So, we when you talk about our pitching staff, we were 9-1 and feeling pretty good about ourselves, but we struggled the last couple of games, and going back, I've watched every game multiple times, especially just the games that we've lost. I've watched, and it was actually a blessing in disguise because I was glad we got great momentum. We got off to a good start, but our pitching did get exposed a little bit in the midweek and in the depth of our bullpen. And if this pandemic would have hit, we'd have been 9-1. We'd all been thinking, man, we've got it figured out. So with the recruits that we're bringing in, with some of the graduate transfers that we're bringing in, there are some holes on our pitching staff that we needed to fill. And I definitely think we've done that. We've got some exciting kids, some big arms coming into our program next year. And again, they're going to be young. We do have some, like I said, some experienced grad transfers coming in, but we really needed, I think from a coach's standpoint, it was good for us. Nobody likes to lose games, but for us, if we'd have ended the season at 9-1, it would have probably been a false sense of security. So we needed to have a little bit of failure there and grow through some growing pains, just for kids to sort of realize, okay, I need to continue to get better, and I need to make that next jump.
Likewise, offensively kind of went through that transition right before the season started. Coach Lucas comes in and starts working with the hitters. They get off to a good start. Kind of, he brings in a new mentality, some fresh ideas to work along with these guys and kind of see them start to develop. How will having a whole year to work with him help your hitters moving into next season?
I think that's a great question, John. I think going back really quick to our pitchers, Coach Cooper's, he's done an unbelievable job of developing our pitchers. And if you look at all of our pitchers, they've all gained probably 15 pounds on average, close to it. Their velocities all jumped anywhere from 5 to 8 miles an hour, some more than that. I mean, he's done a great job year to year. And that's what, the biggest thing at the Citadel is you got to make sure you're a year better, not just a year older. And I think we got into a little rut here where kids were just getting a year older and weren't getting a year better. And that's something that we constantly fight in all the athletic programs here. So Coach Cooper's done an unbelievable job with the pitchers in making sure that they're getting better and they're just learning the system. That's all it is, learning the system, learning how to work, learning to believe in themselves, and then taking it to the mound. And every guy he's gotten his hands on has gotten better. Obviously, Coach Lucas came in, not an easy situation, but it was sort of nice because he was able to sit back for a couple weeks and reevaluate all our players. And he could come in and sit down, hey, this is what I'm seeing. What do you think? And then we could sort of have a plan of attack to, what we're going to do to try to get these guys ready for the season and to improve. But Coach Lucas was a great player, just like Coach Cooper was, and played for Coach McDonald at Louisville and been around some really high-powered offenses. So having that fresh set of eyes on us, on our kids, was great. Coach Gershenfeld, who was with us before, has gone now to the minor league catching instructor for the Yankees, catching coordinator for the Yankees. Another just tremendously bright mind that did wonders with our hitters. So Coach Lucas has reaped some of those benefits from Coach Gersh and has taken us to another level offensively. Again, we have plenty of hitters. I love our offense. We're going to be able to beat teams in many different ways, score runs in many different ways this spring. So we're loaded from a position player standpoint. really for the next 3 or 4 years.
And kind of talking about, your young team recruiting these guys, how hard is it to sell, and what method do you go about when you try to explain to them, the fourth class system and being a cadet while also playing baseball? It's not like you're, just going to a school to play sports and go to class.
Well, I think our school, gosh, it sells itself, John. I mean, for me to get into a young man's living room and talk to his parents about what this school can do for him and for his future, that's an easy sell. And I think been doing it a long time. Siddle's been doing it for a long time. So we're looking for a different kid, though. I mean, we don't recruit the same kids necessarily that College of Charleston recruits. I want a blue collar kid in our program that's sort of had an edge, a chip on his shoulder. We've tried to really get back to recruiting toughness. We want kids that are tough, hard nosed. I like multiple sport kids that played basketball or football or soccer in high school or grew up playing other sports. And that's what we're looking for. And if you go back and you look at all of the championship teams that we've had here in the past, those are what those teams consisted of. Just tough, hard-nosed, competitive young man that we're not going to back down from anybody and accept every challenge that was in front of them. So it's a different type kid. But gosh, I say this all the time. Not everybody can go to South Carolina or Clemson in this state or even in the border states here. But it is still really, really cool to tell your girlfriend's parents that you're going to the Citadel. And, so the prestige of our school, it takes care of itself. And obviously we all know what that degree does for you. So to get them to come and get into this brotherhood and sisterhood is really a neat thing. And it's something I think that obviously makes us unique.
And staying on recruiting, your incoming class, both freshmen and the graduate transfers, kind of when you went out for this class, as you build this program, what exactly were you looking for this year? Were you looking for the best available talent? Were you looking at specific positions? Did you focus more on hitting, more on pitching, or did you just go out, and get the best athletes and best players that you could get?
So these guys coming in this August will be our third class that we've brought in. And this class was more, we really wanted to get some top level arms in this class. And, when you're recruiting high school kids at any state, it was like this when I was in Tennessee, but it's very cyclical. There was not great, a lot of the top arms in our state this past year that just graduated, they were gobbled up either by Carolina or Clemson, other Power Five. So there was a big drop off, from that initial top group in our state to maybe the next level guys that we're sort of all fighting for. So we had to go out of state and get some kids, but we wanted to get some top end arms, some kids that were going to throw the ball in the upper 80s and be in the low 90s and had some athletic ability and some feel to go with it. So that was a priority. And then we're just trying to get, from an offensive standpoint, we're trying to get the best offensive player. We're going to teach them how to defend. And we're looking for dynamic, athletic kids that can run and got potential to get strong with their body frame and that type of thing. So it's just, each class has been really good. But I do think that each class that's come in here, we've gotten a little better talent, a little higher talent each and every year. So I'm excited. We got a special group coming in here. It's going to be fun to turn these guys loose.
With this current situation that you're in, where you're going to have pretty much 30 freshmen on your roster next year, how has that affected recruiting going forward over the next couple classes, knowing that you're going to have a lot of these, if not the majority of all these guys back?
Well, we have 4 kids committed that are in the 2021 class already. 4 really, really good players. These are kids that are just finishing their junior year in high school, be seniors next year. So we've only probably got space for 1 or 2 more. So that'll be a smaller class. And that's what's happened with the pandemic, the COVID-19. That's what's got us. And we're not the only one. It's everybody else in the country too. You're just not going to have a lot of room because of that freshman class is so big right now. So smaller classes, but we're going to be very specific. We've got some, I guess I really can't comment on them, but again, it's going to be a small class, but got a couple local kids and a couple out of kids that are extremely.
How, you're talking about your class, how will this affect it moving forward over the next 3 to 4 years with your classes? Will they need to be smaller as well, or will they have to start picking up in order to balance your classes back out?
Well, it's funny, that was one of the first things we tried to do when we got here, was try to get our classes balanced out the best we could. And we actually felt like we were in perfect shape, going into this year with our kids, the balance of each of those classes. And then now we get thrown to here and we're almost back at square one again. It's going to take 2 or 3 years to get it back. I hate to say it, if we have 40, 45 kids in our program, we're not going to be able to, nobody's going to function with that. Kids are going to quit. Kids are going to transfer. Kids are going to find out they can't play at this level. I mean, there's going to be great competition. And that's what we've tried to create here. We want to make it difficult for kids to get into that clubhouse and be a part of this program. We're not just going to take anybody off the street that wants to walk on or wants to play. You got to be pretty darn good to be in this program now. And you got to be really, really good to stay and remain in this program. So that's where we're at. It's just going to create a lot more competition, but it's going to make us better. It's not slowing down Coach Lucas and Coach Cooper. They're going out and we're recruiting the best players we can possibly get. And, the guys that are here, that's what they want. They want us to recruit great players. That pushes them and makes us better. So we'll continue to do that. It's just going to be in smaller numbers.
Transition here and kind of test your memory a little bit. We're going to take you back 30 years right now, 1990.
I barely remember what happened last week, Joe.
You're current. If you go back to 1990, you're getting ready now for the second game of the regional, taking on East Carolina in a night game. You're coming off a big win over North Carolina State in that first game in the regional. Kind of, what's the mindset of not only you but the rest of that team during this time, knowing, hey, we actually belong down here. We're actually going to be able to compete and possibly win some games here.
Well, it's funny, and I appreciate what you've done with that. You have opened up a lot of great memories on the social media platform, seeing some of those games and just, knocking the cobwebs off. It's been really nice. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of my former teammates on that team. But honestly, going into that Atlantic Regional, we really weren't sure, we knew we were pretty good, but we weren't sure. We weren't sure. I mean, we won 26 games in a row, dominated the league. But we were just very, very confident group of kids that honestly loved to compete. And I remember going and watching the first night of that regional, and we had some rain, so it pushed some games back. And we watched Miami and Stetson play, I believe, in the first game. And Miami ends up hitting a couple home runs late to beat them, I believe. And but it was just so laid back. These guys were almost like pro guys out there, just laid back. And man, if you look at any of those highlight tapes, you see that our dugout was just so intense. The guys on the bench were so fired up. I mean, it was just hard-nosed, scrappy baseball, and that's what Coach Port wanted from his teams. And so going into that first game against NC State, obviously we had Ken Britt, Southern Conference Pitcher of the Year, and he just stuffed them. I saw with Billy Baker, Billy doesn't get a lot of credit because he was sort of overshadowed by AJ, but he was a All-American type player that year, and it was our number 2 starter. It was just really dominant. But, AJ went 0 for 5 that first game, I believe, against NC State. And I remember kidding with him. We were eating a ham and cheese sandwich after the game. And I was like, hey, man, come on. We can't win this thing if you don't get it going. And I was just giving him a hard time because AJ was Superman for us. He really was. He carried us the whole year. And I was just sort of just giving him a hard time. But then I think he goes like 10 for 11 with 4 or 5 homers the rest of the regional. It was unbelievable. But getting that win was big. And then East Carolina, we just really weren't sure. We knew they were good. I think they had won like 50-something games. They were like 52-6 something coming in. So they hadn't lost a lot of games. But, man, we got some great starting pitching and just some timely hitting in those first couple games that really made the difference for us.
Yeah, you talked about Baker not really getting a lot of the credit. He hits that home run in the first inning against NC State, comes back against East Carolina, and throws that complete game. So, right off the bat, he's proven his worth right there. And then, you're able to beat Miami in that third game and advance to the championship game. And then you get into the middle of that game and it's tied. And all of a sudden somebody comes up and hits a ball off the scoreboard. Talk a little bit about what went through your mind when you got that pitch, hit it off the scoreboard to make that, a 4-1 game?
Well, it was obviously a great moment, but that whole weekend, we had such great starting pitching. Richard Shire threw a gem the first game against Miami. Obviously, you talked about Billy and Ken Brett, and then Brad Skole, who honestly did not know he was going to pitch in that game till he got to the park. How about that strategy? I don't know if Coach Port thought Brad was going to get too nervous or what. We give him a hard time about it, but man, he took the ball and gave us 8 strong innings in about 110-degree heat on that AstroTurf. But we had, honestly, AJ and Billy, they carried us all year, and then the rest of us, we did our part from time to time to provide some sparks offensively. But obviously, a great moment. Lucky I got a good pitch to hit and a good count, and I got lucky. But coming around third base and just seeing our team in the dugout, our second base, I guess we were in the third base dugout at that time, was really special. It's a memory. Those guys coming out to greet me at home plate was, something I'll never forget. The bonds and the closeness of that team, and we weren't all best friends. Don't get me wrong. We fought. We argued, we challenged each other. I mean, it was a most competitive group I've probably ever been around. And I think that's what separated us and allowed us to have such a special season.
And continuing that, you do win that regional and you're off to Omaha. Kind of what's that feeling when you get to Omaha, you get off that bus and then you walk into Rosenblatt for the first time?
Well, I talked about the weather being bad down in Miami, so it pushed us back. We had to jump in the bus that night, come back, wash our clothes, and we had to get a flight like at 4:30, 5 o'clock that next day after driving through the night from Miami to get back to Charleston and get out to Omaha. So it was such a whirlwind. We had a ton of people showed up. We had a little celebration. They sort of gave us a little parade on the way off campus to get us going, but that was a whirlwind. It went by so fast. I don't think anybody slept on the way home. It's just such a great time. We had to get something to eat, wash our clothes, get packed again, and head out there. And then when you get out to Omaha and you come in, they do an unbelievable job out there, and they have a team host for you. And you get in your bus and you're driving, and you're just sort of looking out the window, and you're just waiting for it. And then all of a sudden, you pull over this hill, and there you see it. You see Rosenblatt Stadium, and man, I've been getting goosebumps talking about it. But just that first sight of it is really, really special. And we got there to go out and walk around out there a little bit and see the surroundings. Obviously, at an opening ceremony, we were able to have a short practice out there the day before we played. But there's nothing like seeing it for the first time. And man, I just get goosebumps thinking about it.
Take us back to that Cal State Fullerton game. It was kind of a back and forth game. Wasn't the best game played defensively, but you're able to come up in the ninth, get a hit to give you guys a 1-run lead. They come back and tie it, and then you come back up in the ninth. You push the ball through the right side, and then Anthony Jenkins with that unbelievable slide, to come around and score that game-winning run.
Well, a couple things about that trip, John, that I think that I don't know if the many people know this. We talk about our roster being 45 guys. We got on that plane to go to Omaha with 22 players. 22 is all we had. Okay, gosh, I mean, you could not get a coach in college baseball right now to go play a weekend series with 22 guys. They would lose sleep. They would be panicked. I know I would be. But we're on that plane to Omaha with 22 players is all we had. We get out there and we face Paul Bird, who I got to spend some time with last year. His son had played at Clemson, and it was great reminiscing with him. He was a pitcher that pitched in the big leagues for about 11 years and does some color work for the Braves now. We faced Paul Bird. He was really good. We got onto, it's funny. I give Dan McDonald a hard time because he led off with a hard single into left center and then got picked off right after that. So we always give Mac a hard time about that. But we jump on and we got the momentum, and they were obviously really, really good. And they put it on us, I think 8-2 or something like that. We really weren't in the game. But that night in the hotel, you have a day off, you practice, and Coach Borg called us a meeting, and we're meeting all 22 guys in his room, and it's not a suite, it's just a double room. And I don't think many people know this, but he dressed us down pretty good. He challenged us, really did. Maybe we don't belong here. we're not going to win a game here. And Coach Port was a master motivator, man. He could do it. And we left that room, so fired up, couldn't wait to play. And he got us going for sure. So going into the Fullerton game, we still felt good about it. We were out there playing, but we really wanted this game. And it was going back and forth. Again, I think Baker hit another huge homer to get us going there. It was a back and forth ball game. Felt like a heavyweight fight. Every time we thought we were going to win, they would tie it up, and then vice versa. But again, I just happened to be lucky. I think the second time, the last hit I got, they'd walked to get to me, which was obviously the smart thing to do. I think they walked Baker to get to me, which was very smart. But just got lucky, and then getting that base hit, and then seeing Anthony come around and make that tremendous slide, and then just the pitching that Hank Kraft did in the bullpen that day, and even get us, catching 8-9 innings, and then pitching a couple, then going back to catch again was just unheard of nowadays. So just some really special things during that time, but it was good to get that one for sure, and to get that one for Coach Port.
That was 30 years ago. Does that ever, come up with, when you're recruiting kids? Do they ever ask about anything like that? Do parents ever, bring that up and talk about that in any way? Or is that something that's just kind of been so far away that the new recruits and their families don't think about anymore?
Well, obviously, yeah, this was before all the kids that we have in our program were born. So it was a long time ago, but, it's such a special thing. It's great. The Citadel people haven't forgot it. When you have a championship team here, our fan base is just so passionate and so loyal. They're never going to forget when there's a glorious year like that. They're never going to let you forget it. So, no, we talk about it, and that's the thing is we want to be able to, let kids know that we did it, and that's our goal every day. I get up, and we want to get on that road to Omaha and be moving in that direction. And I'd be lying if I didn't think about it. I've got in my office right here a jar of dirt that's from the infield. I got a Rosenblatt jar. I got a TD Ameritrade jar, and I think about it every day. Now we don't talk to our kids about it, because I think that's you're getting ahead of yourself a little bit. You got to win, get in the postseason, and make a run is what you have to do. And if you talk about it, I think too much, I think it can be a negative thing. But I'm not lying. I think about it every single day.
We've just got a few minutes left here, so we'll take this time to open up for any questions from anybody on this call. If you do have a question, just unmute yourself, announce who you are, and then go ahead and ask the question for Coach.
Hey, Coach, this is Al Brower from Cincinnati. How are you today?
Hey, Al, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good. Listen, I'm watching MLB in the Players Union, and I got a sneaky suspicion we might not have MLB baseball this summer. Can you comment on that, please?
I can a little bit. I'll let you know what I do know, Al. I hit this morning with Justice Smoke, who's now a first baseman, played at South Carolina, local product here from Stratford High that's with the Milwaukee Brewers right now. And I hit with Justin this morning. He comes over, and we've been working out sort of over the pandemic a little bit, and just asking him about it. They're it's funny. The owners want to make the players look greedy, and the players want to make the owners look greedy. And right now it is, nothing's been approved from just the health standards. The players haven't accepted that proposal, just how they're going to function on a day-to-day basis. But the financial part is what's really the kicker. And, I got a feeling there's some good negotiators going in there and trying to hammer this out. I would hate to say it, but there could be a summer with no MLB baseball right now. But if I was a betting man, I think we'll find a way to get it done. I think if hockey can get it going and then baseball can get it going, I think that'll give us great momentum going into college football and the NFL. But I'm trying to stay positive here, and I feel pretty good about these guys trying to work it out. But keeping our fingers crossed there, where there'll be some pro baseball this spring and summer.
Coach, we just had a question come through here, kind of talking about College Park, where you played during your time. There's been some improvements there over the last few years. Is there any talk about, continuing those improvements and kind of make that a better, facility for you guys to work out in and practice in during the off season?
Well, we've put a lot of money into College Park since I've been here, and we've really turned it into a really nice practice facility. Uh, and I love College Park. There's just a lot of nostalgia there. It's obviously where I played, so a lot of great memories. But we got a lot more to do there to make that place even close to being game ready. Even to let teams come in, let summer teams come in and play in the summer. I don't feel good about bringing families in there and letting little kids run around through the grandstands and things like that. It's not safe yet. So outside of the lines, there's a ton of work that needs to be done for us to be to get things accomplished out there that we need to get accomplished from a baseball standpoint. Between the lines, man, it's great. We'll continue to make more improvements and hopefully continue to build on that. There's no doubt about it. We love that facility, and we're very blessed to have it.
We've got time for about one more question if there's anybody out there that has a question.
Hey, Coach, this is Xavier Starks. How you doing?
X-Man, how are you? Good to see you.
Doing good. My question relates to the parents of our kids. Have you received any calls from parents concerned about their kids coming back and the safety, any safety issues that they're concerned about?
Oh, that's a great question. No, haven't had one. Obviously been communicating with, and I just, in just talking in general and thinking, I would assume that just in our student population, we would, how it is when you leave this place, sometimes you get back home and you're with your buddies and you're with Susie Q and you think, man, maybe I don't want to go back, So I'm sure we'll have a little bit of attrition that way. Luckily, all of our guys, and I don't know, talking to Digger and Brent and in their two programs, I don't know if they've had any yet either. So there may be a little bit, but for my guys right now, no parents, no issues. I mean, we've got such great leadership on our campus right now, from president all the way down, the way they've handled this pandemic and what's been going on and the protocols that they've put in place. We're going to be ready for students to get back here in August, and hopefully it'll be business as usual.
Good deal. Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
All right, Coach, we're running short on time here. So, we appreciate you taking the time to be on with us today. We thank you for all your insight on your current team and everything that's coming about down the line and taking us back through the College World Series team. So we appreciate you taking the time and, best of luck throughout the summer and into next season.
Thanks, John. Appreciate everybody being on the call today. A great time. And there's exciting things ahead, not just in baseball, but in all the programs here and in the Corps Cadets. So the school is moving forward, and again, it's got a bright future ahead of itself.
All right, Coach, thank you very much. And for everybody that's on today, we appreciate you taking the time to participate. And we look forward to seeing everybody back next week, same time, 12:30. Next week's Dog Talk will be with our head women's soccer coach, Kieran Traquar. So until then, everybody be safe and go Dogs.